So Dad, people always ask me what you do, but I can never give them a straight answer. So what do you actually do?
And it's great to be with you here today, and the answer to the question is I help people create extraordinary legacies, and that's not just about what happens when people pass on. It's actually about what you do in the here and now. What's the etch you instill in the lives of others, especially your family, and what's the reputation you're creating and the care you're showing. I help people with conversations around communication strategies within their families, because sometimes those communication issues lead to conflict, and I help people fix that. And what about silence between the generations? I get that opened up as well. And what about you communicating the future plans for the family, the business, the succession plans, and so on? And most importantly, I help families protect their wealth and prosperity across the generations. Protection against failed marriages, bankruptcy, early death, and so on. And finally, the human elements, creating a blueprint for the transition of the family custodian. Communicating thoughts, plans, final wishes, what to do, who to talk with, and what you'd want at the end, especially communicating the things you'd never want left unsaid. Putting that all together simply for people. That's what I do.
So Dad, what has motivated you to do this, and why is it that you do what you do?
About 13 years ago now, a very close schoolmate of mine was killed in a commercial air tragedy. I rushed to get away for the weekend, a cheap ticket, a cheap airline, and an out-of-hours pilot, taking risks which just didn't pay off. And it put an end to my buddy's life, and he left behind a loving wife, 4 children, and I had to organise and turn up to collect his body from overseas, the funeral service, I had to perform the eulogy, and 4 kids in private school, living in a beautiful house, yet he had an out-of-date will, not enough life insurance, and no thoughts or plans as to what the family should do now. Time after time I tried to get Brian to do something, to get his stuff sorted, but he always put me off, and there was always something which seemed more important or more pressing at the time. I know it wasn't my fault, but I carried guilt for years. I should have tried harder, I should have forced him to do something, but at what cost to our friendship at that stage? And since then, others I've worked with have passed away as well before their time was up. Bronwyn, Con, Dennis, Shane, Sharon, and others. Not one died of old age. And for most people these days, we've done a great job in getting their stuff sorted before the unexpected happens. And sometimes time runs out before they treat what I do with priority. And I still get grief occasionally from existing or potential customers. They say I'm too pushy. But they have a delusion of invincibility, apparently, and based on my life experiences, I care too much. I've seen the other side and how it pulls families apart. And I'd never want that to happen to you or to your family. And that's why I do what I do.
And who are the sorts of people that you do this work with?
Good question. Who do I deal with? Well, people who love and care passionately for their families. People who want their business to outlast them. People who are fun, interesting and enjoyable to be with. And people who contribute to their communities. And I guess people who have significant estates and are successful rural businesses. They're business owners, they're farmers, graziers and so on. Plus others if they qualify and they're referred by existing clients. I see people all the time, every day, who need what I do, but from now on I'm only going to deal with people who want for their family what I do. People who care passionately, and for them getting this sorted is a priority. I want to help those people transition from not being able to sleep to being able to sleep well at night. Plus now, I'll only work with people who sign a commitment of priority around getting this done for their family. People who will listen, act and treat this with priority, and only people who have been introduced to me. There's no exceptions there. I do a good job and I save families, and our team will work with your team to get this sorted.
And so these are obviously really complicated issues. So how do you get the best results for people?
That's a great question, Ange. How do we create unique value? Well, we have a proprietary 9-step process to create real value for those you love. I help qualifying rural families eliminate intergenerational conflicts so they can establish protected family prosperity and family harmony within 90 days without either squabbles or wasting money. We start with a cuppa and a chat, the old-fashioned way of communication. And I collect the fee up front to ensure you stay the distance. Then we create a list of burning issues to make sure we've covered all the stuff you don't know. Next, due diligence. We need to make sure we're working with solid foundations. We need to ensure your trust deeds, your structures, your documents, and everything else is up to date and valid. Family consensus is next and one of the most important steps. It's imperative we get everyone on the same page and solve the family dynamics. After that, taxation, protection against foul marriages, etc. Getting the appropriate documents sorted, signed and completed are paramount. And that leads to the human elements, the blueprint for the custodian transition when needed. All the documents, wishes and plans are collected for simplicity when the time's ready. And finally, the road ahead, we need to ensure validation each year of your plans. Things change and we want to ensure ongoing relevance. Plus, of course, I'll be there when needed to help your family through. And our goal is to get this sorted for you within 90 days. Our unique and thorough process, that's how we do it.
So if people wanted to start working with you, then when could they get going?
Sure, Ange. When do we get started? We start the conversation with you when you meet our criteria and we can see if we're a good fit for each other. We start work as soon as you invest the fee and sign the commitment of priority. This is non-negotiable, that step. I need to know you care for your family's future at least as much as I do. We will give you a couple of thinking and exploratory exercises to start with, and then we're off to the races. We can get this sorted within 90 days, unless you hold us up. But mostly it's about communication and our great questions. Meeting all the family members separately and having conversations around gratitude and expectations. It's where I do my best work, getting consensus and the platform sorted for the documentation ahead. So I've learned over the years to only engage with people who want what we do. I've wasted my time and energy in the past on people who need this stuff, yet don't care enough for their families to give it the priority it deserves.
Thanks, Dad. That was actually really educational for me as your own daughter to know more about it. And how can people get in touch with you?
I'll record something.
Website.
I'll record something.
Phone number.
Yeah, I'll just put it.
Want a hot cross bun? Thanks.
In the video? Cool, good question. Great question.
It's a great question.